Hello, my name is Crive and this is my Wyrmheart guide / commentary. In this video, I'm gonna showcase my Wyrmheart 53 dungeon run, and as of the moment of this recording, it is the highest and the fastest Wyrmheart 53 in the world. In this video, I'm gonna go over talents, routes, how to navigate the trash. I'm gonna explain every single trash mob in this dungeon, and also how to navigate the boss, how to deal with each overlap and ability that the boss throws at you. This video has timestamps, so if you are only interested in a certain part, you can use them to navigate to that part. I'm briefly gonna show you my setup so you know what I used. Those are my stats. I was playing the Cloak Legendary. Those are the weapon traits that I used. These are the talents, and that was my gem setup. Now let's very briefly talk about legendary considerations. If we look at the Wyrmheart key and its damage profile, we are noticing that most of the damage in this key is concentrated on the tank, and we want to tailor our legendary choice towards that damage profile. So we are excluding the Amulet of Unyielding Bloom from the start because it doesn't really help us with the problems that the dungeon throws at us, especially now that they changed the way that the blades work. Before that, you had a hard time dodging their AoE jump, but now you can dodge it pretty reliably and don't need an extra shield for that one. Now, for legendaries that help with tank survivability, we are looking at the Mossy Veil and the Moccasins, and both work completely fine, but I am gonna nudge you towards the Mossy Veil legendary because its effect is up permanently on the tank compared to the boots, where its effect is only active when we have a life pedal that's healing the tank, or if we have a safe haven down. When choosing my talents for this run, I had a couple of considerations, and one of them was the affixes. We had Ultimatum, which increases the boss's health by 10%, and I wanted to help with boss damage because of this, so I went for Sprouting Nettles. My other consideration was the damage profile of this key, and as I already mentioned, most of the damage in a Wyrmheart key is concentrated on the tank, so I picked up a lot of talents to help with tank hitting. Mostly Burden Restoration, Nettle to the Pedal, and also Bluey's Gambit and Nurtured Haven, so I have my safe haven for almost every pull. Another consideration was that the last boss does quite heavy damage with his debuff and also the ice field that he puts on the ground, and that's why I picked up Magic Ward and Elusive Wilding. I also went with Natural Knowledge for better mana management and picked up Flower Power, though in hindsight I don't think that Flower Power is a necessary talent for this key. Instead, you could spend the points elsewhere, going for example for Rowdy Rootsap for more tank survivability, Symbiosis for more damage, or Natural Protector to help with the debuffs that the Ice Shortlings throw out, or just to help with one-shots. When designing the route for this dungeon run, we mostly looked at two things. One of them was to reduce the number of pulls to the least amount necessary, and the second one was to avoid any inefficient or dangerous packs. And I give you an example here. This pack is very dangerous to play with either the bottom pack, because we have a Chronomancer here, and playing double Chronomancer creates dangerous overlaps. It's just too many debuffs on the group. But if you pull this pack on top of the upper pack here with the double Scholar, you get a dangerous overlap again, because the person that is kiting the orbs could get targeted by the assassin and die then to the orbs, because the orbs would reach that person. So this is how we ended up with this route. Let's start with the dungeon run. The first pull of this dungeon in our route is quite dangerous because my tank is gonna take a lot of damage, and at the same time I have to deal with a couple mechanics, like that I have to kite the orb from the Scholar, and there's also the 6 Ice Shortlings dying and then putting 6 stacks of debuffs onto the group, creating a hard overlap, because usually there's also an ice affix going out at the same time. Here at the start of the pull, I'm using my weapon because it is my strongest cooldown throughput-wise for tank healing, and when all the monsters are reaching my tank, they will melee him and do a lot of burst damage upfront in this way. Then what I'm looking out for here is the ice shortlings dying, and what I'm going to do for that is that I'm preparing a Heart Bloom, also using my dice trinket, and then putting down a safe haven and pressing my defensive as soon as the debuffs go out. I'm also looking to the spellbound person, in this case here Roxu, because he had the ice affix on him, and now after we survived that overlap, I am more calming down and I can concentrate on tank healing only. Which gives me the opportunity to talk a little bit about the monsters in this pull. We can see a Tundra Stalker, which is a mob that just has a frontal cone that's always aimed at the tank. Then we have the Expedition Lookout, who is a mob that doesn't have any abilities, it's just doing tank damage. Same with the Eldrin Recruit, just a monster that melees the tank. Then we have the Ice Shortlings, which only do their effect when they're dying, putting 1 stack of a debuff onto the group for each Ice Shortlings that's dying. The debuff not only does damage, but also slows you. And lastly, we had a Scholar, which summons an orb. It always gets summoned on the furthest player, and you have to kite the orb. He also has 2 casts, one that's just a bolt that's hitting the tank and doing quite high tank damage, and the second one is an AoE that needs to be kicked. Here in the second pull, we have an Assassin, and you always want to focus that Assassin because it can create dangerous overlaps when the Assassin is jumping one person and stunning that person, and then a blade is jumping on that person, for example. We also have these blades that I just talked about. The way they work is that they have 2 abilities. One is a spin that just happens in melee and you need to move out of it. And the second one is a jump where they jump on one player. You can dodge the jump if you just keep moving. So as soon as you see the circle appear on your character, just strive in one direction and you will always dodge it. The blades also enrage at 30% health, so that's why you want to focus them. They also usually have the highest health in a pull, so it's quite prudent to focus them down so you don't kill the whole pull except for the 2 blades at the end, and then you have to fight 2 blades for another 20 seconds, losing you valuable time. So for the third pull here, we are chickening the big ice elemental here. It is a very dangerous mob for one of his 2 abilities. One ability is that he does a frontal cone, that's not dangerous, but the second one is a slam where he slams the ground, and on this key level the slam one-shots, so that's why we are chickening him. We are pulling that pull because we are interested in the 2 golems, which just give really good count. In this pull, we also have a new mob that we haven't seen before. It's the Frozen Remnant. What it does is that it puts these ice puddles on the ground. You just have to dodge out of them. So whenever you pull those Frozen Remnants, there will be group damage happening because the initial tick of this ice puddle will always go out. So try to have a Heart Bloom up and ticking on the group whenever you fight those Frozen Remnants. Then we also have the Spellbound Golem, which just summons these ice spikes that you have to dodge out of, and then when he dies he summons 3 ice shortlings. Whenever you are fighting a Scholar, you as a healer should ideally kite the orb, because you losing uptime or losing damage is not as important for timing the key as a DPS having to kite constantly. There is, however, a DPS that can do really good damage while kiting, and that's Ilarion. So if you have an Ilarion, you can position him in the back and let him kite the orbs, but every other DPS would lose damage and uptime. One tip I can give you for kiting these orbs is that if you have space, you should summon them and then run really far away, and then you can plant again and just keep attacking until the orb reaches you, and then you run really far again, and then you have a little bit of a breathing room in between where the orb is still going for you. Now in this pull we have the enemy, the Chronomancer. What he does is that he puts 2 dots on the group, and that's also a reason why you want to specifically use your root zap on him, because the dots hurt quite a bit on this level. So that's why I'm looking to root zap the Chronomancer here. He also has a cast where if he is channeling it, the whole group gains more haste, like the whole enemy pack gains more haste. And then he has also another cast where he does damage to the tank. One tip I can give you for the blades is that they are always spinning first and then they're jumping. So if you see the blades doing their spin, you know that there's a jump coming afterwards, and you can already position yourself in a way that you are not standing on top of any of your group members, or that you are just ready to move out of the circle when it appears on you. And now you see we have the issue that I talked about earlier, is we didn't focus the blades, and now they are the last mob living, and I am assuming we lost about like 15-20 seconds here to having to fight them at the end here. Now we are going for the second pull in this area, and it's a lot of the same mobs, excluding the assassin. So we have a Chronomancer again, we have a couple of blades, so you want to pay attention to the Chronomancer, want to root zap him, and then look to dodge the blades, and otherwise it's mostly tank healing. One thing that's interesting about the ice affix is that it does quite a bit of damage to the enemies as well, so whenever you get the affixes on you, it's recommendable to walk into melee, like you see my Ardios do here, and then the ice will chunk the enemies for quite a large amount as well. There's one interesting bug that I found, and that's with the ice affix. If I press my defensive as Sylvie, I sometimes get 0 damage from that ice affix. That felt quite weird. Now we are shrouding to the last boss, and that last boss on this key level is actually quite hard, because if you get 2 ticks of the debuff that he's throwing out on one group member, or if you get 2 ticks from the puddle that he's summoning, you are dying. So that's why you have to be on your tiptoes to basically insta-dispel the debuff, or to quickly move out of the frigid mists. During this boss fight, I want to keep my blue butterfly on my tank, as well as one pink butterfly, and then I'm looking at the spell tracker and specifically looking at the 2 spells Frigid Mist and Splintering Ice. You can see them come up here. Frigid Mists is the spell that needs to be kicked, and it summons an ice puddle. You want to move out of those puddles instantly, and then we have the Splintering Ice debuff, which puts a debuff on one player, and you need to dispel him, otherwise he will take multiple ticks of the dot, and at this key level 2 ticks already kill that player. That's why it's important to instantly dispel the debuff, and you have to hold your global for that. I have made the mistake in the past that I was just casting nettle bolts and then had to believe that I could just dispel the debuff when it's coming out, but it's not enough sometimes. Sometimes when you finish your cast, the dot will just take a second time and kill that player. So I got into the habit of holding my global for the dispel. It's also a good idea to have root zap available for the dispel as well, or for the frigid mists. I don't think there's a priority. You can use it on either one of those, just to have a little bit less healing and less danger that you have to deal with here. Apart from that, you want to look out for overlaps that are coming later in the fight. For example, that you have to dodge and a debuff coming out at the same time. And the dangerous part of an overlap like that is that your mental capacity is limited. You have to focus on dodging the spikes, and at the same time you also need to look who is getting the debuff and what place are the projectiles flying to. So that's why I think it's a good idea to use dice and your ultimate and a healing cooldown like Heartbloom there, just so the player that's getting the debuff can survive a second tick, and that gives your whole party enough time to process who got the debuff and then to dodge the subsequent projectiles flying out. One thing you should look out for regarding the spikes is that you can dodge them in a way that you're not blocking anyone else in your team. One way to do this is to walk in a circle. Another one would be to go towards the edge and walk in a line. And you not only want to look for placing good spikes, it's also really good for your group and your space management if you are standing near the edge of the platform as a ranged player, because then you can drop your Frigid Mist puddle here at the edge. You see my Ardus drops it here also at the very edge, and this way we just have so much more room. It can be a really big issue for your group if you don't have good space management and then you see these puddles all around the room, even in the middle, which makes the boss fight quite hard to navigate. There's also an overlap that can happen with the ice affix, and that's when you have to dodge the spikes and the affixes happening at the same time. And obviously as a healer you need to hold your dispel for the splintering ice. That's why I would recommend you to run a dispel trinket for this dungeon. It's not only good for the ice shortlings, but also good for the last boss here, just so you can use your dispel trinket when the ice affix is happening during the spike phase. And that's how we timed our Wyrmheart plus 53 key. If you liked the commentary and the gameplay, then you are welcome to also join my stream. I'm streaming almost every evening on Twitch. My Twitch is linked down below. The UI is also available for import. It's also linked down below in the description. And if you have any questions, then please drop them in the comments. This is part of a video series. I'm making a commentary and guide for every dungeon. If you are interested in that, then you are also welcome to subscribe. See you in the next one.